I welcome you all again to this session of Kalinga Literary Fest. In this session, we are going to discuss about the story of Netaji's youngest spy. For this, I would like to call on stage the very famous author of The Nameless God and Lakshmi Panda. Please welcome with huge round of applause, Savvy Colonel Ma'am. Ma'am, please. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to call my fellow volunteer Disha to felicitate her. Next, I would like to call on stage Anil Dhir sir. So now I would request you to start the session. Now I'd request sir to please continue the session.
Namaskar. Before beginning the session on this book, I would like to say thank you for you for coming here, and thank you, Sir Anil Dheer, for being gracious to come up here and share the space here with me. I feel blessed to share this space with Anil Dheer, sir. Because I feel I have only written this book. I am just a medium of telling the story, which is partly fictionalized about a 14-year-old. But I would not have known about Lakshmi Panda or not have written if it was not for Anil Dheer, sir. And I don't know whether you people know that it was Anil Dheer, sir, who brought the spotlight on Lakshmi Panda. She was living in penury, and it was sir who brought her home and served her in her old age. So I think I ask sir about how he met Lakshmi Panda and how he found her.
Thank you, Sevi, for the kind words. But let me tell you, the story of Lakshmi Panda would have remained confined. There was a full stop. She was with me for some days. I told her story. She died, and everything ended there. Yes, even I had contemplated writing a book. In fact, I did start writing a book. But the story of Lakshmi Panda is thus that the story cannot be told, should not be told, and will not be told. I stopped my pen somewhere. And I know that you have thanked me so profusely, but very, very honestly, if really somebody did justice to her, in her 82-year life, out of which 68 was struggles, if somebody did it, if she's watching from the heavens above, it's you. Who really, I think this book, you call it a, faction or, based. No, I read the book from point to point, I may have shared a little bit of you about her, but I think there isn't nothing, no aggrandizement, no, overdoing it or no overstating it, her role, the way you did it, the way you encapsulated it. And specifically, I'm so happy you did it for an audience, the young audience, the school audience, my target was, that I wanted to tell this story to children. I see a very few young people, sitting here. I wish the hall was full. And anyway, but yes, you asked me, so it should have been the other way, I have been telling you, but I'll tell you in very short. Lakshmi Panda, I do a lot of research. So in one of my researches at the Netaji Bhavan in Delhi, in Calcutta, Elgin Road, I found out the name of Lakshmi Rath. Obviously an Oriya name. One thing, the story started from the, in Aizawl, the War Graves Memorial. Okay. So I had been there, and there was a register. In that register, in that one thing led to the other, and I found her name. So I was curious, and when I was doing the research, that was about 15 years back. There were still some INA veterans who were alive, Bengali veterans who would come for old time's sake, sit in front of the Netaji Bhavan in Elgin Road, smoke the bidi and drink the tea, and talk of old days when they were in the INA. I fell into talking with them, and they all knew her. She told, yes, she was the youngest fighter of the INA, and she was an Oriya. I'll tell you what happened. I came back, I searched. Yes, I did get leads. There were very few INA people left, maybe a handful, only a dozen. Everybody told me she's there, and some of them told me she's still alive. I searched for her, high and low. Wherever there was a INA veteran, Angul, Koraput, Barampur, what was that place, Hinjili Katu, wherever I got a name, I went. But yeah, it was all dead ends. Finally, I struck pay dirt. I was came to told that the INA veterans were surviving and given a small pension every year by the government. So I made my way to the secretariat. I got a list, and I found out that she comes and draws the money from a bank in Koraput once a month. Some easily 5,000-6,000 rupees. She just comes, takes the money, and goes away. Anyway, it took me. I even went and sat in the bank for 2 days, hoping she would come. She never came. But yeah, I did get her. I was just talking to Sevi about my first meeting with Lakshmi Panda. She was washing utensils in a wayside hotel. She had just undergone an eye operation. There was a patch in one eye. 82 years old. And she was washing those. When I told her, are you Lakshmi Panda? She was Lakshmi Rath. I had come to know that after the INA came back, she married a veteran called called Panda, so she adopted the title Lakshmi Panda. He told her, मैं ही Lakshmi Panda हूँ. I told her, you worked in the INA, you worked? She told yes. And with a lot of persuasion, she was suspicious. I took her along with me. She had had an eye operation in one of the eye camps. I took her to a doctor. Anyway, one thing led to the other. It took me a lot of time, 5 visits to Koraput, to make her get talking. And when she talked, I realized, she was a living history of the INA because she had joined the INA when she was just 14. The story is such that, there were a lot of Oriya workers who were working in Burma. They used to work in the railways, they used to work in the rubber plantations, in the tea plantations. Her parents had gone there. They were staying in near Rangoon. The Allied bombing happened. They were in a trench. The bomb fell. Her parents died. She and her brother were orphaned. Nobody else. Eventually, she made her way to the INA camp, where the Indian National Army was there. She stood at the doorway and said that the Britishers killed my parents. I want to join the INA. As a child, they would feed her and send her away. It so happened one day he told her, who's that girl who's standing outside? They told her, she's somebody, her parents, she's an orphan. We are taking care of her, but she wants to join. Call her. What's your name? And this is what I'm telling is first hand from Lakshmi Panda. I told you, I am Lakshmi Ratha. Where are you from? I am from Orissa. You're Odia? Yes. She said that Netaji told me, move Odia. Even I am an Oriya. Okay. And even first they engaged her, to help in the kitchen or the washing and all that, small girl. But she got her military training. She fought. She killed a few British officers. Her advantage was that she knew the Burmese language and they used her as a spy. She would cut grass and take it for the horses of the British people, and she used to, get all that. Anyway, the war, she was there, she fought, the war ended. After the war ended, the INA was disbanded. She described me her journey when she went from Singapore to Bangkok once again by the railway. You know. So what happened is she came back. And how did they come back? They came back walking. From Rangoon, they walked back to Calcutta. She told me her story. And she even told me one thing. She told me, that actress Helen, वो जो नाचती है हाँ, वो मेरे साथ आई थी. I was surprised. हाँ हाँ बोली वो हम मेरे साथ वो भी पैदल आई थी. It took me 6 months, a lot of letter writing. I went and met Helen, and she recollected. Yes, she had also walked. In fact, she wrote in her memoirs. Okay. So what happened was, after I met her, it was so sad. Like normally anybody would do. I went to the local MP, to the MLA, to the collector that she's a veteran. Why do she's living a life of such penury, no house. Her children, कोई मुर्गी बेचता है, कोई कुछ बेचता है. Do something for her. And she has been fighting this struggle from the last 50, 60 years. She has been writing letters that I fought with Netaji. Nobody believed her. What happened was, when she was arrested in Calcutta, when she came back from Singapore, in the docks they arrested all the veterans. They didn't arrest her because the British were meticulous about not arresting anybody under 16. She was underage. She was not arrested and she was let go. So there was no record. And the government wanted a record, because she was very young when they didn't arrest her. There was no record, and she has been fighting from the last 65 years, crying out aloud that I am a veteran, and nobody listened to her. So it like normally happens. I went to the MLA, I went to the MP, met the governor, met the chief minister also. They said yes, we'll do something. Nothing happened, and then I realized before me also there are people who had tried. In fact, Girdhar Gamango had taken her to Delhi also. Lalit Mansingh had, some army generals had also written about it. And she was very frustrated. She kept on, कुछ नहीं कर पाओगे तुम, कुछ नहीं होगा. I was determined. So, short, one thing led to the other. I traveled all over the country. I collected documents of her. I got her photographs. I met the President of India. I wrote to her, Pratibha Patil. So, in the end, to cut the long story short, yeah, I took her to the Rashtrapati Bhavan. She met the President of India, and she was awarded the Swatantra Sainik Samman, the highest award we give to a freedom fighter. Too little, too late. Well, it wasn't given. What happened is, meanwhile, the President promised us कि उसको मिलेगा. So I got her back, and she became a sort of a small celebrity. She would go to schools and all that. But that, like it happens, the files get stuck. So that time Kandhamal riots happened. Okay. She was in Koraput, Jaipur. She was in a Christian colony. There was some disorder, and she fell down and she hurt her head, and she couldn't come back, and they wouldn't get treatment because there was curfew. So with great difficulty, we got her to Cuttack. But she was in a very bad shape. So I told the chief minister, and they shifted her to Delhi AIMS for better treatment. And when she was in Delhi AIMS, I went knocking at the Rashtrapati Bhavan again. I met the president and I told her that you had promised her that she would get the award. She's dying. For the first time in the history of independent India, the President of India issued a presidential decree and accorded her the Rashtriya Swatantra Sainik Samman. The decree was sent to the AIMS hospital. She was in a coma. It was given over to me. 3 days after the award was given, Lakshmi Panda died. She never came to know. The body was brought back to Bhubaneswar. It was given state honors. There was some hubrai. Then everybody forgot it until Sevi wrote the book. My whole idea, what I tell you is, I was hearing that today. I was hearing Sampath, Vikram Sampath. I heard so many things, The veterans are freedom fighters. There are many, I don't deny. There are so many unsung heroes, so many who gave their life. Lakshmi Panda's battle did not last for 2 years in the jungle of Burma. Lakshmi Panda's battle lasted for 70 years. Fighting the system, fighting for her survival. It It was so sad that at every end we went, Why did it happen to her? It was little solace that I could get her that award. And she was with me for the last 5, 6 months of her life. I bought her back. She stayed with me. She used to sleep with me. The story she told me, what she had undergone. Sevi has transformed them in her book. I think it should be compulsory reading for every Indian. You have heard of her great freedom fighters. You have heard people went to jail on and off, and they did that Goli Vikhai. But a lone woman, a widow, bringing up 3 children, all on her own, and all the while she never gave hope. She never lost hope. She kept on fighting till then. So it was a failure of a very big system. It was a blot and a shame to a system, I would say. Like how a veteran, a 82-year lady had to wash utensils on the street side wearing a torn sari. Somebody who had sacrificed her childhood also for the sake of the country, and whatever she is speaking was the gospel truth. It took me 6 months to go all over the country, to the archives, to the Netaji. I got everything. It is not that it was anybody could have done it. I even got the gun number which she had been issued to her. I got photographs of her in uniform. If I could do it, I'm sure a professional researcher. I'll just end it. I'll give it to Sevi. After I came back and after the President of India accorded her, it was a national news. Most of you wouldn't have carried it. I got at least 30 people from all over the country. They wrote to me, sending me files and copies that, even our father, some of them are alive. We were also there, nothing is happening. This was not my job. I would just forward it to the president once again. It's not that Lakshmi Panda was a lone person who suffered this ignominy. There were thousands and thousands of people, who must have suffered this way, which they didn't get the due. When I took her to the President of India, only 3 of us were there. So, the protocol and all is there. The ADC told आपको दूर बैठना है, खाली नमस्ते करनी है, 5 मिनट में जो बोलना है बोल के आ जाना है. The meeting lasted for 1.5 hours. The President of India cried. She wept. The meeting, the ADC would come again and again and say, she told, no, go away. It was one woman to another. It was not a president speaking to a former. The President of India wept. She gave us some money. Lakshmi Panda refused, but I didn't come for the money. क्या चाहिए तुमको? मुझे मेरा सम्मान चाहिए, मैं दिलवाऊंगी. The story doesn't have a happy ending. She did get her award, but she didn't even know. And had she not fallen and been in coma, I don't think so I would have managed it. The president did it so fast only because of that. Many stories. What I have told you is a gist. You can write books that are so. 6 months she was with me. She would recollect the whole stories, piecemeal, small tales. What happened? Whatever I could remember, I written down. I passed it over to Savi. She is beautifully handwritten. All of you should read that book. Each one of you individually read it. Give it to others to read it. It's not only inspiration. It is, I think, for schools it should be a compulsory. I know the way the book was promoted and the way it was received. Anybody who reads that book, there are some books which leave an indelible impression on your mind. You will not forget them throughout your life. The story of Lakshmi Panda is such. And I'll thank Sevi. Now I'll ask Sevi. She has written books earlier, very successful books. But I am sure writing this book, she even met the family of Lakshmi Panda, whoever they were surviving. I told her a few, and then I could very well, like it was a jigsaw puzzle. Everything had to be pieced together. She did it in a very beautiful manner. Okay, I would have been so happy if this hall would have been packed, and I've got videos on her speaking. When I show those videos, at least 50% in the audience cry. I showed it in Calcutta. I don't know. I was nothing. I was just a small. When I get down, people started touching my feet. Some of the old ladies started kissing me. They started, I had no role. So this, is a very sad part of it. I think I have told you what I want to say. I don't know. I have no questions for Sevi. Now she'll tell me how the book was received. I know. I was following the reviews and all that. Yeah. Everybody who reviewed it, Just it was not an automatic review. They read the book, and every review was different from the other. They inferred upon it, and everybody was touched. The reviewer, when she spoke, the school children, whoever read the book, you know. So I think I'll stop at that now because the story of Lakshmi Panda is endless. So Sevi, I'll thank you. In fact, I'll tell you, I just returned from Delhi. I wouldn't have. I just came for this thing because it was Sevi and her book. Otherwise, there were so many other topics, which I am usually very happy sitting in the audience. Thank you.
Thank you again, sir, for all that you've done for Lakshmi Panda and for guiding me also through the book. And thank you for your kind words. Yeah, if not for you, none of us would have known her.
Your experiences.
Well, I learnt of Lakshmi Panda because of sir. Because many people may have guided her on how to get the government benefits. But I think guiding anyone can do. But it was sir who held her hand and walked with her. And he walked with her and, got her the recognition. And it was sir who asked her grandson also, I think, to go to all newspapers and tell about Lakshmi Panda's story. And that's how her grandson, Probin Rajpatro, one day walked up to my office in Bangalore. I was a journalist there with the midday, and he came in with some files which sir had prepared. And I saw, and then he said, I said, I want to meet her, speak to her. And then he dialed the number. I think it was your number. Yes. And I spoke to Lakshmi Panda. And I'll tell you the first thing she said was Jai Hind. I'll tell you, I've heard several Jai Hinds every day. But no one has said it with so much of devotion and so much of gusto. I had goosebumps because, I had heard of INA. In school, I learned of INA, and all of us knew Captain Lakshmi Sehgal. But there was this somebody else who was alive and talking to me, and who meant every syllable of Jai Hind, because she lived through the phase, right from the time the slogan might have been coined. And did her grandson Probin Raj did tell me that she used to work as a domestic help. He had some clippings with the photograph. But when I spoke to her, I could feel that I was speaking to a soldier, because she had that energy in her voice. I expected that she would be very frail and sad sounding on the phone, but at least she wasn't. She might have been in other way, but at least when she was speaking to me, she had tenacity. And then I asked her about her time. She told me about her brother Nakul and how they were orphaned. And she happened to mention very casually. See, now I'll tell you maybe the catch line of this book of who do not know Lakshmi Panda is probably the word spy on the cover, which makes them pick up the book. But I'll tell you, when she told me, she didn't say that I was a spy. She very casually mentioned कि हम लोग ना वहाँ जाते थे, ब्रिटिश कैंप में जाते थे और घास काटते थे. And she also said, मेंढक पकड़ते थे और हम information लेते थे. So she didn't make huge and hue and cry of it. For her, it was a duty. It was like it had to be done. And so she did it. So that also shows that how her approach was very professional and patriotic. So, well, I wrote about her, and many other newspapers wrote about her. And then what sir told you about how she met the president, but yet she could not know about her recognition. And then she passed away. So when I learned of her death from a grandson only, my heart sank. I felt that this was something grossly wrong. And it is a failure of our society. It is our failure of us as citizens, a failure of a country to recognize her heroes. We didn't give her due when she was alive. But then I felt that, but her story has to be told. And we, as writers or journalists, are chroniclers. And newspaper articles, they remain for one day and the next day they go away in the garbage. I remember my editor one day telling me, he came and he said, तुम लोग इतनी stories लिखते हो मगर आज का पेपर कल की रद्दी है. And that had struck me. That's true. And so I thought that someday I have to tell her story and I have to write about her. So this thought was always in my mind. Even after the success of my first book, in one of the interviews, a journalist asked me, is there any woman, it was a women's day interview, any woman you feel that, has to be spoken about? That time I hadn't decided on the book, but I did say, if you Google, you'll find it. I said Lakshmi Panda. She's an unknown hero whom all of us should know. But then the challenge came when it came to writing the book. See, writing an article for me, a 500 piece was very easy. But writing a 50,000 word book, so that had, I needed some research. And through net, I found Anil Dheer sir, and he was very gracious to share his research with me. He shared his research paper, which was published, video links to Lakshmi Panda's interviews. And he also told me of his conversations with her. So I have to acknowledge him through and through for very graciously sharing them with me. And then the process came of writing the book. Well, I had the facts. The main thing was anybody can claim that he was in the INA or he was a freedom fighter, but to establish that fact, that needs a lots of leg work, which Anil Dheer sir had done. So the facts were established. So from then on, it was all about weaving the story. So we knew that she was in the INA. We knew she was 13, 14-year-old. We knew her parents were from Orissa and were railroad workers. So all of them had to be woven in. And for that, I researched about the INA. So what we fail to realize it, for a story to flow, we need the minor things of what happens in the day-to-day lives or how they live. So those things which I found in some books about how the daily life was, and some of the thing I had to fictionalize a bit. And well, I thought that by writing the books, this is the least that I can do to tell her story to today's children. And well, the book has been well received. Yeah, I mean, I can't thank him enough. It's been very well received, and it won the Kalinga Literary Festival Award for the children's section. But besides that, also the book has been discussed in Hyderabad Literature Festival, in Manorama Hortus, which was in Kozhikode in Kerala. Then in the Bangalore, it was launched at the Bangalore Poetry Festival. It's been in Abhivyakti in Chandigarh with the Army's Literature Festival. Yeah, in Pune, in several places. So this book has been discussed, well received, and children have asked questions about Lakshmi Panda. Yeah, and that is, I think, is where I feel the aim of the book is achieved. Where children have known about her. I remember I went to a school in a modern high school in Kolkata. The girls had already read the book. 40 girls had bought the book, read the book. And it was thrilling, sir. They came up with questions. And one child came and said, my grandmother was also in the INA. So I think when we write, it's not just about telling, it's about for them to discover more. So that somehow I feel that, we have been able to achieve with this book. And I wish more people read it. And there's more mediums that a book can go through.
I'll add to that, yes, what she rightly said, the 40 people coming, I would have been so happy even if 2 students, if you would have set the spark in the mind, if they have influenced, And yes, reading that book will make them read about the INA. Like you did your research on the INA, you just didn't do hardly any material on Lakshmi Panda. So one thing leads to the other. So once you read the book, you would like to know much more, not only about this thing. Today even the British war historians say that the most difficult front in the World War II was the Burma front. Most difficult. It was even more difficult than the um, you know Leningrad and that invasion which happened in Russia. 7 out of 10 people died. Very few people will know that in the INA where Lakshmi Panda worked, there were many deaths. But 90% of the deaths were not by bullet or bombs. 90% of the deaths were by cholera, malaria, snake bite, starvation, malnutrition. They had to climb up trees, scorpion bites. They had to stay on, didn't have food. They didn't have ammunition. They didn't have transport. If the horse died, they used to eat the horse meat. They used to climb up the trees and fall down and die. They used to die while crossing rivers during the monsoon. They were working in this condition. Of course, they died in the battlefield also. So these were the war conditions in which they kept on. It's not that they retreated. Delhi chalo. That was the clarion cry of and they would have. If things wouldn't have come to that turn, yes, I'm sure they would have made the march to Delhi under Netaji's leadership. Such a dedicated band. What happened? You know what happened when the INA was disbanded? There was a Red Fort trials. You should all know of it. The Red Fort trials, and they were all put in prison. 12,000 or 18,000, we don't know. All the INA people were in prison from Lahore till Chennai, everywhere in prisons they were there. Then there was the Bombay Mutiny, and all that. So Mountbatten knew that it's a big problem. So he signed a pact with Nehru. I will release all the INA people, 15,000, 18,000, 25,000, jitne bhi hain, on one condition. The condition will be that none of the INA people will be inducted into the Indian Army, the Indian Police, or the Indian Security Services. Give me under transfer of power, I will release them. Because they knew that these people who have fought in the forests of Burma, if they are inducted into the army or this thing, what a force to be. Because that time the independence India was not, it was still there. Nehru signed the pact. They were all released. In spite of the pact, there were states like Haryana, there were states like Himachal, Punjab, and even some South Indian states, they did honor them. But there were other states which just forgot them. They went into ignominy, they went into apps, and they were a frustrated lot also. Netaji disappeared or whatever happens, he died in the crash, broken hearted. Many of them, they died of, for economic reasons of wars, but they also died broken hearted. Nobody cared for them, they were shunned. And they were the real people who made, even now, when they were asked the question, to Achinlek or somebody, he said, yes, we left India, not because of Mahatma Gandhi and Nehru, we left because of what the INA had done to us, How they fought and kept the fight on was something which was in eye, and still we don't have an official history. It's so sad. Every year I write to the government of Orissa that make a suitable, you have a memorial of Netaji at Cuttack, his birthplace. I told, in my estimation, there were around 3,800 Orias who were there in the INA, out of which quite a few gave up their lives. I managed to get the names of 600, 700 through my preliminary research. I'm not a very big. If the government really delves, we'll get the names of all of them. Make a suitable memorial. The First World War, all the Indian who died, the Britishers made the India Gate, and everybody's name is written there. More than 85,000 names. The Britishers wrote the name of the Indians who had died. Okay. They made the war memorial. Can't we do that much? I don't say that you write for all. In at least in Orissa, let us have a memorial for the Oriya soldiers. Nobody knows. If I ask you today how many, nobody even knows that some Oriyas fought in the INA. It was Lakshmi Panda's story. We brought them center stage. So this is the state of affairs. I will once again say, books like the story of Lakshmi Panda should be written. There are many more Lakshmi Pandas. I told you, I got 40 people all over the country. Goa, Sir, I have been struggling for 70 years. Please do something for me. I was not an activist. What could I do? I would write a note and send it to the president's office. और president का भी और कोई काम नहीं था कि खाली यही करती रहती. I don't know if some of them got succor or not. I don't even know that. But and these are people who came to. There may be so many, and some of them had given up. They had given up hope. They were scorned. When I went to the this thing, the local MLA, I don't know Micho Katha. She's a liar. She has no proof. So what does one do? I went to the collector. She wrote a letter to the government, writing. It was so, I cried when I saw that letter. She wrote in that letter that this lady claims to be a freedom fighter. She's creating a nuisance in the collectorate always. Please give her 10,000 rupees. I had a copy of that letter. It was, so heartbreaking. She is a nuisance and she's creating problems in the collectorate. She comes and does dharna, so give her 10,000 rupees. If this is how, I'll tell you, any nation which does not respect its elders, does not honor its women, doesn't give affection to his children, and forgets its veteran, is not a nation. It can never thrive. It will never go ahead. The basic hallmark are these four factors. I am from the RSS. We are taught this. If you don't respect your elders, if you don't honor your women, and if you forget your veterans, that nation will never go ahead. It will go into regression. We are doing that. We are doing that. Few days ago, I was in the think tank. I told, there were some very top politicians. I told, you should reserve 30% seats in the parliament. The political party should do it. If not, do it in the Rajya Sabha. Give it to the descendants of people who gave up their life for the country. Give it to descendants of veterans, or give it to veterans. You know why? It is there in the DNA. It is existing in the DNA. It's there in the genetical structure to serve the country, even though they may 2 or 3 generations away. 52% of our elected representatives, either in the parliament or have serious criminal records. Serious criminal record means rape, molestation, murder, kidnapping, extortion, dacoity. These are people we send who are going to decide the laws for us. Why didn't you send 30%? Who does it? How many freedom fighters, descendants are there in parliament today? How many veterans are there as ministers? People who have served the country in different fronts, they know. The children know, it's there in the blood. If you can't, you say winnability is a big factor, send them to the Rajya Sabha. You nominate bloody cricketers, you nominate floozies, the film actresses and all that. Can't you nominate them? That will change the body politic of the country. We need more books, we need awareness. It's very nice. There are some good directions being taken. The new NEP which is coming, the National New Education Policy, yes, there is some sort of reading. Last year, the Azadi ka 75 Mahotsav mein, many unidentified people were all over the states. There was abhiyan by the CM. Many unknown people. I myself in Orissa, we thought हमको बोला गया 75 नाम ऐसे लाओ, 75 names जिनको नहीं मालूम. I told, कहाँ से लाएंगे 75 नाम? We discovered 200 and we were still counting. Every village has a story. There are so many who just fought and gave up. Many of them didn't even want it. I'll tell you the flip side. It's so sad. Sevi said that, the story is genuine or not, I was so shocked, I found people who were getting this pension, freedom fighter pension. Up to 30-40 हजार थे. What was, I was wondering, because when I talked to them, they said, हम INA में थे. In 5 minutes, Sevi would have also got it in 5 minutes. When I talked to them, I knew they were bullshitting. They had never been in Burma. Just a 10-minute conversation, I knew, I found out, hey, where were you fighting, One of them had been convicted of robbing jackfruits from a circuit house. He was there in jail. वहाँ 2-3 धरने में बैठे थे फ्रीडम फाइटर, ये उनके साथ बैठ गया था, तो ये भी फ्रीडम फाइटर बन गया. किसी ने बकरी चोरी की थी, वो जेल में था वो भी. These people are getting it. People who are undeserving and the deserving people. So there's something wrong in the system. And I'm telling you, it continues. आज हम बोलेंगे 75 सब तो मर गए, कोई फ्रीडम फाइटर है नहीं. There are veterans today. There are the family of veterans who have given up their lives. We read them. It's a small newspaper that encounter Pulwama में इतने मर गए, वहाँ मर गए. Do you know how it means? Somebody gave up their life for the country. We have got MPs and MLAs who got multiple pension. Some of the MPs get 5 pensions. They were MLA, they get the pension. They were MP, they get the pension. What do? We have one rank, one pension. What happened? I don't say this. I am not going to decide. But one should honor our freedom fighters. One should honor our veterans. If you want the country to be strong, because this country has a history of fighting against onslaught, fighting against oppression, fighting against foreign forces, and fighting selflessly. The Indian Army, the Indian Air Force, the Indian Navy, it's among the best in the world. What I would say, compulsorily 30% of our elected legislators should be veterans. It change the body of the country. It should be. Freedom fighter is a tall thing. When I told I told a very senior person that freedom fighter के उनको रखना चाहिए, जिन्होंने बोला एक फैमिली को तो रखा हुआ है, क्या हाल है. They met the Gandhis, उनको तो संभाल नहीं पाते हैं. They trivialize to that extent. So yes, the story of Lakshmi Panda should be. I'm telling you, I'll be trying after I was busy. The book should be in Oriya. This book, if we of late in the last elections in Orissa, it was one on Oriya Asmita. Where is our Oriya pride? On that, the whole plank was of the BJP was that, and they went through. This is Oriya Asmita. Let every school child read it. Not this all, the grandiose plans. This is Oriya Asmita. We'll talk of translating that book. Somebody here told us, even outside, and Sai was discussing with me, a film should be made. Let the people know, Because Lakshmi Panda is just a representative. She is one individual who represents hundreds and hundreds. When I discovered and Xavier wrote the book after 10, 12 years. Had this big book written in 10, 12 years, there would have been so many letters to you also. And I too am Lakshmi Panda. Or, I am somebody like her. Because they were all dead now. Hardly 3 or 4 survive. I was in Delhi last week. There was a 100-year-old veteran. I think he's the only surviving one. It's very nice. What I feel now is whatever little people there were, you heard with rapt attention. Read the book. You go to the net, you'll find her photographs, you'll find hundreds of stories, I'm sure. I'm sure before today, most of you would not have heard the name of Lakshmi Panda. But Lakshmi Panda is just one small icon in the system where what we have done to our, with that Asmita or the pride of place, or how we, are proud of how our freedom struggle was achieved, or whatever, the sacrifices given by that, it's but one example. And yes, today I know you have to catch them young, it's the youngsters, today what happens? 8,80,000 students are studying abroad. This was a question in parliament. 8,80,000 बच्चे बाहर पढ़ रहे हैं. अरे इतने तो अंग्रेज नहीं हमने भेजे थे. And we are विश्व गुरु, छाती पीटते हैं, विश्व गुरु थे, हैं और रहेंगे. तो आपके 8,80,000 बच्चे बाहर क्या करने गए हैं? अगर हम विश्व गुरु हैं. And when I argued that, people told वहां के भी यहाँ आते हैं. How many foreigners are studying here? 56,000. और ये 8,80,000 is the official figure. वो कबूतरबाजी से जिनको ट्रम्प वापिस भेज रहा है, पता नहीं कितने गए हैं, हमें नहीं मालूम. Until you're proud of your country, you have a pride of place, you have love for your country, and that's for the young people. Old people is already they half past the age. Books like Savi's, they should be translated. I can, as a person from Orissa, it should be translated in all the states where the IN had Kerala, Punjab. I'm sure if somebody sees in Punjab, there's very similar stories. Sevi, I'll ask you to conclude. I'll tell you, you told me of a few of the responses. I read the reviews. I followed it in social media very thickly. I really wanted to be a part of it. I would have loved it. But yes, after this, we are trying to do it in Orissa. This is the place where it should be. But there were no launches held here, no talks held here. This is a book which the government should take. I would say translate it into Oriya, make it compulsory text in whatever level it fits in. It fits in every level. I think from class 6 onwards or 5 onwards, you can just take it. You can read the very simply, lucidly, very written. I really thank her. She gave her a lot of acknowledgement. Like I told, I did it and the story, it was forgotten. It was already forgotten. वही बहुत सर्च वर्च मारने से कहीं गूगल में निकलता था. लक्ष्मी पंडा, she was, but she was brought back to center stage. She was brought back to life. It was purely and purely of this book. She told me that she's going to get the children writing award. This book deserves international awards. And this book was like she may have written earlier. She did so many newspaper articles, but I knew when she wrote this book how she must have got involved. I when I talk to her, many times when I still talk to her and I give speeches, I'm on the verge of breaking down because yes, she would sleep with me at 2 in the night. She would wake me up. She would remember something. What remember? Hardship. There was no happy memories for fighting in the jungle, hungry. पत्ता खाते थे. You remember?
Yes.
वो जो हम हरा हरा पत्ता खाते थे. कुछ खाने को नहीं था. Thank you. I will say, I'll ask Sebi to enter on a note, but all of you coming, whatever little few you are, go back, read the book, tell the story of Lakshmi Panda, because the story, you will be doing service to yourself, to the nation, if you print it, and read the book. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for all the kind words about the book. And I hope we can take Lakshmi Panda's story forward. She's just not Odisha's Asmita, but Bharat's Asmita. And I think we have to make her name known to every child in our country. Because as you said, she represents the many unsung, unknown heroes of our freedom struggle. And thank you all for sitting with such rapt attention. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, ma'am, for your valuable words and your precious time. So thank you, ma'am.